psalm spells so much because they work so beautifully. They're very simple. They don't take a ton of training, and anybody can get started on them. The only problem with the psalm spells is that there is a lot of religious prejudice out there, especially with witches, and they don't realize how the psalms are part of our tradition. They're actually part of the Western magical tradition. And the tradition, the magical psalm tradition, remember too, states that the book of Psalms is older than the Bible, and that it's self-contained and it's not considered a biblical work, but that it was appropriated to be put into the Hebrew Bible. So a lot of the ways that the Psalms were written down and scribed once they were added into the Bible, the tradition states, were done in such a way that they were appropriated by that religion, but that they predate that religion. There's evidence to show Psalms' existence in Egypt. But the tradition holds that it's probably even older than Egypt, and it's not only Egypt, it's also Chaldea. So anyway, who knows what the truth is, but they are very, very powerful. So we're going to use the Psalm 48 to assure a positive outcome. And so the way we do that is we read it. We read the psalm out loud once all the way through as an incantation, and then we go through and we mine those verses verse by verse. We mine them for the magical seeds, and as we consider the depth of the inner meanings of the Psalms, we're actually planting those inner meanings as seeds in our deep mind, and they actually grow and produce fruit after their kind. People can become a little startled at how efficient Psalms are when done well. So I recommend that you give it a try, but we're going to do one together today, all right? Okay, so today we're working on Psalm 48, and it's for the assurance of a positive outcome to any situation. Okay, so if there's any situation that you're dealing with right now that you want to be assured of a positive outcome, let's call that situation to mind. We always like to make sure that that's somewhat in our sphere of influence, and we'll go ahead and put the psalm to work once through as an incantation, and then we'll go back and we'll mine verse by verse the inner meanings of these psalms. Okay, here we go. Psalm 48. Great is the Lord, and greatly to be praised in the city of our God, in the mountain of his holiness. Beautiful for situation, the joy of the whole earth is Mount Zion. On the sides of the north, the city of the great King. God is known in her palaces for a refuge. Okay, I just lost my spot here, sorry. God is known in her palaces for a refuge. For lo, the kings were assembled, they passed by together. They saw it, and so they marveled. They were troubled and hasted away. Fear took a hold upon them, and pain as of a woman in travail. Thou breakest the ships of Tarshish with an east wind. As we have heard, so have we seen in the city of the Lord of hosts, in the city of our God. God will establish it forever. Selah. We have thought of thy loving kindness, O God, in the midst of the temple, in the midst of thy temple. According to thy name, O God, so is thy praise unto the ends of the earth. Thy right hand is full of righteousness. Let Mount Zion rejoice. Let the daughters of Judah be glad because of thy judgments. Walk about Zion and go round about her. Tell the towers thereof. Mark ye well her bulwarks. Consider her palaces, that ye may tell it to the generation following. For this God is our God forever and ever. He will be our guide even unto death. That's an actual spell. Now let's find it magically. So we go through it here, and we're gonna do it. We're gonna actually install these thoughts deep in our mind and create the changes that we desire. All right. So great is the Lord. So great is the Lord. So the first thing we always have to do is establish what we mean. who is the Lord. Now, we all know that have been doing this work who the Lord is, but we have to reiterate it to ourselves so that we know, because we don't want to become superstitious about anything. Okay, so the Lord is the principle of life itself. It's the life principle. It is the principle of infinite love and perfect love. It's the principle of divine truth. It's the principle of infinite spirit. It's the principle of infinite principle itself. So infinite principle meaning the eternal verities, infinite intelligence. So God's intelligence, the intelligence that knows the course of a planet on its orbit, the infinite intelligence that knows how to create embryos and then to create babies from those embryos. The infinite intelligence that understands how to design a seed so that it becomes a specific plant, etc., etc. The infinite intelligence that knows that 2 + 2 always equals 4, not 5. No matter how many times a human being states that 2 + 2 equals 5, it doesn't make it so. So infinite intelligence knows what it knows regardless of what's being stated. All right? So that's what we mean by great is the Lord, and greatly to be praised in the city of our God, in the mountain of his holiness. So the city of our God, the mountain of his holiness, represents in Zion is what they're talking about. But Zion is not a place, and it's not part of a religious system. It's an older concept that was probably called something else that we don't know. But Zion represents that mountain within us, on top of which there is a holy temple, which is our super conscious mind. It is our divine consciousness. It is that part of us which is connected to infinite intelligence, and greatly to be praised in the city of our God, meaning that we are praising the great principles that we're calling the Lord in the city of our God and in the mountain of his holiness, meaning that we are climbing up to the highest parts of our exalted consciousness. Beautiful for situation, the joy of the earth is Mountain Zion, on the sides of the north, the city of the great king. Okay, so the joy of the whole earth, the whole earth is your manifest experience, all of that which is manifest in your life. So your manifest experience, we're talking about beautiful for situation, all of the things in your life, these things that we want a positive outcome for, beautiful are they. We are creating that by stating it, and the joy of the whole earth, meaning every manifest situation, there's joy in it, is Mount Zion. The way we find that joy, the way we find those manifestations is to climb up to the highest parts of our exalted consciousness on the sides of the north. And so the sides of the north is for us the sides of manifestation. Okay, so God is known in her palaces for a refuge. So God is known in the palaces of our higher consciousness as a place to go when we do not feel safe. That is our refuge. We talk about that a lot in these Psalms. For lo, the kings were assembled, they passed by together. The kings are the kingpins of your thought forms. They are the leaders of the thought forms in your life. So if you want to know who the king of the kingdom of finances is in your life, you can look to the way that is manifest in your life. If you want to know the kings, who the king of the kingdom, you want to know what the kingdom of relationships looks like in your life, you can look to the manifestations of your relationships. But there is a kingpin. The kings are the main thought that holds the thought forms together of all of these things, for good or for ill. So a lot of times usually the kings of our thought forms, the kingpin of our thought forms, are often very limited and negative. They are not holy thought forms. So the kings were assembled and they passed by together. So they're passing by now. When we consider these things, when we consider these eternal verities, these leaders of our mind, these leaders of our thought forms are passing by and being shown this for their consideration. They saw it, and so they marveled. They were troubled and hasted away. Okay, so these thought forms will marvel at the exaltation of our higher self and who the Lord is, but they will be troubled and hasted away because most of them are based on our ego. So ego thought forms get very scared. Fear took a hold upon them, and pain as of a woman in travail. An ego thought form that are the ones that want to keep us feeling separate from our good. They want to keep us, the ego has a mantra, and that is seek but don't find. Constantly on the treadmill, constantly on the treadmill. So when you call upon infinite intelligence doing an operation like this into a specific situation, well, remember that your fear-based thought forms they already have them programmed inside of them that you're going to seek but not find. You will not succeed. So there is no assurance of a positive outcome in any situation if left only to your ego mind, because the ego does not want a positive outcome. The ego wants you on a treadmill because that's how it keeps itself alive. It's a false sense of yourself. So fear took a hold upon them there. So that's the kingpins of these thought forms, which is based on your ego. And pain as a woman in travail. They get very scared of light. Darkness is extremely afraid of light because darkness is vulnerable to light. Light is not vulnerable to darkness. All right? Thou breakest the ships of Tarshish with an east wind. So if we're talking about God here, we're talking about our infinite intelligence, that part of that infinite principle. Breakest the ships of Tarshish. Well, now ships are what are the comings and goings of goods, services, and people, right? So breaking the ships means that you're going to starve out an entire country by breaking the ships. They're not going to be able to come and bother you. And they're also, if you break them going back in, they're never going to get supplies that they need to survive. So you can actually create a type of starving out these thought forms, because Tarshish represents thought forms which are highly limited, highly negative, and combative, arrogant, and everything that wants to block your good from you. Because it wants you to stay broke and busy. Because that way you stay in the darkness. If you stay in the darkness, it lives. If you go into the light, it can't live. It's like throwing water on the wicked witch. There's nothing you can do about it. It's going to melt. As we have heard, so have we seen in the city of the Lord of hosts, in the city of our God. God will establish it forever. Selah. So you've heard about it and you've seen it. And again, when you put things in the past tense, like they do oftentimes in the Psalm, it's a magical technique to see that it's already happened. So as we have heard and we have seen in the city of the Lord of hosts, in the city of our God, God will establish it forever. So all of these ships are being broken. All of this fear of these thought forms as they die, literally die. But don't worry about that. You don't have to be kind to those thought forms because they don't really exist. They're just nothing but nightmares. Okay, they're nothing but wraith forms. They're shadow. They don't have life within them. You're not actually killing a sentient being when you allow light to kill darkness. So you've already seen it happen. You already know it's going to happen. The Lord of hosts, meaning the head of the army of angels, in the city of our God, in your exalted self, God will establish it forever. That means it is forever means now, in the present moment. In the present moment is eternity. So it's happening now. You are getting through this now. You're getting over these negative thought forms now, and that is why a positive outcome is assured. Okay? So we have thought of thy loving kindness, O God, in the midst of thy temple. We've thought of it, remember? So your thought is everything. So if you move your thoughts from these dark thought forms and think instead of the thoughts of loving kindness in the midst of the temple. So you go up, you exalt your consciousness, and you focus your mind on the principles of infinite love, and they become empowered in your mind, and that's how you get this beam, get yourself on this beam. According to thy name, O God, So is thy praise unto the ends of the earth. Thy right hand is full of righteousness. This is a very powerful seed, couple of seeds here. Wonderful. Okay, so according to thy name, O God. Now, if you do any kind of Kabbalistic magic like we do, you know that we do have Hebrew names of gods that are power names that we use, and those are very, very important. But that's not what's being referred to here in the psalm. The psalm is referring to the nature of God. So according to the name, we're talking about the name of God is the qualities of God. So according to thy name, so is the praise unto the ends of the earth. You praise God by remembering the qualities, by remembering his name. And we say his, but there's no sex here, okay? It's God and goddess. So according to thy name, so infinite, we did it again. We just did it. Infinite intelligence, infinite perfect love, divine love, all of those things, right? Thy right hand is full of righteousness. Now, the right hand just represents the hand of utility. So if you're left-handed, that would be called the left hand, okay? So that's the where you're the most effective is your right hand. Well, God's most effectiveness, God's pure activity, the activity of God, his most effectiveness is full of righteousness. Well, God's always effective. So God's right hand is just a poetic indication that righteousness. Now, what is righteousness? Righteousness means right thinking, right mindedness, right action, right experience. So it's taking and making all the crooked places straight. It's going in and untying all those little knots. It's going in and doing it on our behalf, doing for us what we cannot do for ourselves. Let Mount Zion rejoice. Let the daughters of Judah be glad because of thy judgments. Okay, now Mount Zion, we've already talked about what that is. It's your higher self. It's your most exalted consciousness. Actually, the higher self is the temple on Zion. But these are this is your soul that we're talking about here, the Mount Zion. Now the daughters of Judah. Okay, now daughters represent children of a thought form that are fertile, that will give birth to new thought forms and new thought forms and new thought forms. So the daughters of Judah is the ability to give praise and thanksgiving. So the more praise, let Mount Zion rejoice, let the daughters of Judah be glad because of thy judgments. So the daughters of Judah are teaching praise to all of the thought forms, praise and gratitude because of thy judgments. Now, again, we want God to judge. We love God's judgment because, again, God is not a deity. God is not a being up in the sky. God is definitely not the ancient Hebrew tribal God of Yahweh. That's not who this is. It's much more ancient. This is the power, the one power that has many names. God can be called anything that you want. It can be called Isis. It can be called Astarte. It can be called God and Goddess. It can be called Karnunos, and it can be called whatever. Okay, but we understand what it means, that there's only one, there's only oneness. Okay, so we want God's judgment because God created us. God created you out of perfect love. So when God judges you rightly, meaning God judges you as being the perfect child of love that it created you to be. Okay, so because of God's judgments of you, you have every reason to be glad. Walk about Zion, walk about your soul, and go round about her. Tell the towers thereof. Tell your soul that you're glad. Tell your soul that you recognize that you're perfect love, that you are perfect love, that you're made out of perfect love, and you are willing to start to allow your perfection to exalt itself rather than all of the limited beliefs that you have about yourself, all of those horrible things that you tell yourself. Okay, so now we're going to be walking around and talking about the infinite love and the infinite intelligence that is who you are. Mark ye well her bulwarks, consider her palaces, that ye may tell it to the generation following. The generation following is the next group of thought forms. You're going to create a whole new way of being so that those new thought forms have the truth rather than stuff that you've made up all by yourself. So those truthful thoughts, being clear and honest with who you really are based on God's judgments of you, are going to create those new thought forms. That's what the next generation following, and that's why your future is is assured. Your future positive outcome is assured because you are sending that thought form out to do it just that. For this God is our God forever and ever. He will be our guide even unto death. Okay, so again, God is not a personality. God is not a deity. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about supreme principle, supreme creator, supreme love. Okay, so it's forever and ever and ever. There's only oneness. And you will be guided from on high, but you must claim it. If you don't know what to do, it's because you haven't said, I now know what to do. I am guided and led from on high. If you still don't know what to do, you claim it again and again and again, and you wait patiently until you get a definite lead. And you say, give me a definite lead. Give me a definite lead. Show me what to do. Show me where I'm to go, what I'm to do, so that I can have the outcome that I am seeking in this spell. Okay? And that's how we do these psalm spells. It's just that simple. Okay? And that took us, 20 minutes. And that's not a real long psalm, but look at what it did for us. It's given us an assurance of a positive outcome. Now you can repeat the spell every single day. You can even repeat it more than once a day in order to really get these thoughts to be habituated into your deep mind. All right. So this has been fun for us. And I'm going to do more magic, and as I get more time, I might do some longer streams, and we'll definitely do some more complex talismans and all kinds of cool stuff. But we're going to get started out with these easy things that are so effective, and the Psalm Magic is a great way to start. Love you very much. I can't wait to talk to you soon. Blessed be.